Ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
The Star Fantasy League Show puts you in control of your own team. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, and co-host SFL CEO Zach Stanley and Nick Steblenko. The Star Fantasy League Show is on the air now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team in Rochester. John and Zach are both off today, so I am your host, Nick Steblenko, and I'm going to be joined by Jason Gringer. We're going to have a heck of a show for you today. What do you say, Jason?
Yeah, I'm excited for the hosting debut of Teddy Bear 2. Excited we made it out of Henrietta last night unscathed after softball.
Yeah, there was some heated exchange there, but somehow we managed to defuse the situation.
Apparently, Zach didn't make it out of New York City, though, after the draft last night.
Yeah. I got that text message this morning, and I got to say I was very surprised he couldn't power through it. He said he was sick.
Yeah.
Don't you power through that?
I guess. You know, he missed his chance to reintroduce the King Stanislaus mailbag.
Seriously?
Now that we're out of the shadow of Lord Jonald's reign of terror here on the show.
So what are we going to do? Is it going to be, is it Teddy time? Or I don't know. They would come up with something weird. We got a pretty action-packed show for you today. Obviously, we have the big news about the draft to talk about, U.S. men's soccer team, and we have a full slate of baseball on the schedule, so we have tons to talk about. I think we need to jump right into it, though, because on the forefront of everybody's mind, we need to get a little bit of reaction from the NBA draft last night.
Yeah.
Some big stuff to talk about. I think there are a couple of surprises, a couple of things that we definitely did not expect. What's your overall reaction?
Well, we knew it was a crazy draft. It was going to be a crazy draft. Tons of depth. I think you saw that in all the picks, even in the second round. Some guys slipping late. Some really good picks in the second round, I thought. Probably the biggest surprise for me was that the Cavs kept their number one pick. They didn't trade down. They had a lot of offers. But I don't think I told you like on Tuesday that I wouldn't be surprised if the Sixers, they stayed in their same spot. They took Embiid at that spot.
Yeah, they did. That shocked me too. And especially after the conversation that we had with Doug Gottlieb when we had him on the show just a couple of days ago, I was really expecting the Cavs to take some sort of deal, get rid of the pick. It really sounded like, it would have made a lot of sense for them to pick up a couple of veterans, maybe get a pick later in the draft. There was a lot of talent in this draft. I mean, you saw some teams down in the mid of the first round, even early in the second round. They picked up some players that I think are going to have a huge impact. And I don't know. I mean, I think they could have gotten a pretty good deal for it, but instead they end up taking Wiggins. They end up sticking with the pick. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I think my biggest question is, how is he going to mesh with Kyrie Irving?
Yeah, that's going to be the question mark, I guess. I don't think even Cleveland knew what they were doing. Who they were going to take up until like 30 minutes prior to the draft.
Yeah, I think we knew that. With there was a little bit of talk about Dan Gilbert wanting to take Wiggins and the rest of the staff wanting to take Parker. So I think that's definitely something. We'll see how that develops.
Yeah,
but
I think they really couldn't have gone wrong with, I think, either of these three guys. Obviously, I guess they didn't want Embiid with the injuries history, that he's going to be out pretty much this whole year, or at least until January.
Yep.
But Parker, obviously, he had a bad workout. He didn't want to go to Cleveland.
No, he didn't. It was pretty clear.
Yeah.
They said he showed up out of shape. That's not even close. That can't even be true.
Yeah, how is
that true?
I don't know.
How do you get ready and you do so well for every other team, and then, oh yeah, by the way, he's really out of shape for Cleveland. Yeah. I didn't buy that at all.
Yeah. He wanted to go to Milwaukee, which is very surprising to me. Who really wants to go to Milwaukee? I mean, he's an hour away from Chicago, which is, where he grew up or whatever.
Yeah, that plays a role. But the other thing I think is that he gets to be a feature in that offense.
Yep.
We'll see. We'll see what happens there. We need to talk about the 76ers. They took another player that they're probably not going to be able to put on the floor for most of the year. Last year we know they had Nerlens Noel. And this year now they have Joel Embiid, who absolutely is a talent, but he's a 7-footer with injury problems.
Yeah, they're pretty much going to be tanking for the second year in a row. I think that's what they're going for. They also traded for Saric from Orlando, and he's not even going to be able to play in the NBA for 2 more years. So we're looking at they're going to get another lottery pick next year, most likely. It's probably going to be top 3. So they're going to they should get another decent player, and they're going to have a stacked team of guys like pretty much a college freshman team.
And
almost.
I think for our purposes, we're going to have another season where we can comfortably pick against the 76ers.
Yeah, you can say that.
Let's talk a little bit about the trades, though, because there were a couple of really big trades leading up to the draft, and even on the night of the draft, there were some big ones. What stood out to you the most? I mean, we had the Knicks got in the action, the Bulls got in there, and Magic got in there. What stood out to you the most in terms of a trade in this draft?
Yeah, I think the Knicks was a big one just because they picked up 2 draft picks. They unloaded Chandler and Felton's contracts.
That's big.
And with those picks was probably what the steal of the draft was Clay Anthony Early.
Absolutely.
Phil Jackson's making his putting his name out there, putting a stamp on the Knicks. The other big trade was we talked about the other day was Houston dishing off Ashik to the Pelicans. They picked up a first-round pick, but they used this pick as a draft and stash kind of strategy where they took a guy, he's not going to be playing in the NBA this year, to clear some cap room, trying to free up some more space to get Melo or possibly LeBron.
Is Ashik really worth a first-round pick?
Well, I don't know. I think he's probably going to make a good combination with Davis there.
I guess.
So they'll have some really tall trees down low.
Yep, that's true.
And New Orleans didn't really do anything with their other draft pick in the draft last night. I guess another trade we can look at was Aflalo went to the Nuggets from the Magic. That was kind of a steal for Denver, I thought.
Well, we also heard that Aflalo was a possibility to go to Cleveland. I couldn't believe that actually didn't come through because they were offering some really high picks and Aflalo for it. That was one of those ones I was blown away that Cleveland didn't jump all over that.
Yeah, and Orlando didn't really get much back. They got Fournier and a 56th pick. I don't know. A couple big draft pick deals, though, was the Heat getting Napier.
That was huge. Apparently, LeBron James loved that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
what does that mean? Is he going back for Napier?
I don't know.
I don't know about that either.
And the Bulls made a big trade with the Nuggets. They got Doug McDermott.
Dougie McDermott, I love it.
They needed a shooter out there.
Absolutely.
But I like the Nuggets end of this deal as well. They got a big center, Nurkic, and they got Gary Harris, which maybe is a steal of the draft that late in the first round.
I agree. Gary Harris was touted as one of the top players in the NCAA last year. Going to the Nuggets, that's got to be a big one. I love Doug McDermott to the Bulls, though. Like you said, they needed a shooter, and McDermott is the shooter in this draft. So for them, that's enormous because they lost Deng last year, and not having Derrick Rose on the floor for the most part, his injury problems and questions coming from that. 2 knee injuries this early in your career. We saw this with Brandon Roy, where he ended up not being there for the long term. His career ended early. So I think McDermott to the Bulls is a big one. I think that's going to put them in contention this year. And then Clay Anthony Early dropping to the second round. He was one of the best players in the nation on one of the best teams in the nation at Wichita State. Yeah. How does he drop to the Knicks?
Yeah, they were talking about it throughout the whole first round. Like, when's Early going to go? Is he going to go? They thought probably late first round, 20th, and finally he dropped 34th to the Knicks. So
just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. So Phil Jackson making an immediate impact in New York. They didn't even have a draft pick until he made that trade. Yep. They clear up some cap space. Yeah, I think they do lose a pretty vocal leader in Tyson Chandler, a defensive leader. But I think it's pretty obvious. This team is going to be rebuilding. This team needs to put some pieces in place for the future. Could be a pretty good move. So we'll see how it plays out. What do you think for next year, though? I mean, there's a couple of big names in this draft that I think are going to make an immediate impact, particularly for the Celtics, Marcus Smart and James Young both going in the first round. But who else do you think? For first year, immediate impact for the 2014-15 season?
Well, I think another guy you can look at is the guy that went last in the first round, Kyle Anderson to the Spurs.
Definitely.
That was a huge pick. It's basically, they're talking about like a DL. He's pretty much a DL replacement. Mm-hmm. He's a great team player. I don't know. There's a lot of guys. I think even Napier can make a huge impact if he stays in the Heat and the big three are still there. I think it was a really big mistake trade by Charlotte, actually.
You think so?
Because he would have been playing with Kemba, his boy from Connecticut.
Yep.
So that would have been a great backcourt, I thought. I don't know. Some other guys, obviously Parker's probably the candidate for Rookie of the Year. He's going to make an immediate impact. He's going to be averaging probably
he's going to be featured in that offense. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot of chances to make plays. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. But Milwaukee, they're not so good. We'll see. I think he's going to have more of an impact as his career wears on, too.
Yeah.
So
I like what Orlando did as well. They picked up Aaron Gordon. Who knows how he's really going to do, how he's going to fit in that offense. But they traded for Elfrid Payton, who a lot of people liked. His draft stock went way up.
Yep.
He's going to be probably their point guard if they get rid of Jameer Nelson. He's going to be playing with Oladipo. So that should be an interesting backcourt.
Well, yeah, I think Aaron Gordon jumping in with Victor Oladipo. You got some really young talent on that team.
Yeah.
Watch out. I think Orlando might – we'll see. I mean, a lot of these picks were in the East. We know the East was bad. We know that they had a tough time last season. They weren't even comparable to the West. I mean, we're talking day and night here. So a lot of these young guys are going to need to come in. They're going to need to play really up to tempo right off the bat. We'll see. I don't know. I think the biggest problem I think you're going to see, Cleveland gets the number 1 pick. They take Wiggins. I think they're going to have more trouble. Again, after we talk to Gottlieb, I have an entirely different outlook on this.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of problems with them trying to mesh.
Yeah. And it was funny. They played the clip last year from when Anthony Bennett got picked for the first round. And he said, well, hopefully next year we'll be getting another Canadian guy in Wiggins.
Yeah.
So he kind of predicted the future, I was kind of surprised that they actually said that. But
did he also predict the fact that Bennett himself would not be a good player? I don't know, because it ended up being a huge bust, at least in the first year.
He had like one good game last year against Toronto, surprisingly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, surprisingly. Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of surprises in last night's draft. I think the biggest winner for me had to be the Celtics. I loved Marcus Smart at the 6. I really think that he's going to factor in really quickly with Rondo on that offense. And I also, James Young from Kentucky, just great picks. And I'm also not the only Celtics – well, I'm not a Celtics fan, I'm going to say, but I'm not the only Celtics fan out there that was happy about that, because I think we all saw Bill Simmons was extremely happy with the James Young pick last night.
Yep.
The ultimate Celtics fan, if you will. So
yeah, I think Nuggets were big winners. I like the Magic, Spurs, Knicks, also the Lakers.
The Lakers.
I think they got Julius Randle.
Julius Randle was a big one, yep.
He dropped a little bit, but they also picked up another guy from Missouri who might be another steal, Jordan Clarkson.
Okay.
So he's going to, I think, have a nice impact for them. Talk about the losers of the draft, the Clippers. I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah,
they drafted another shooting guard.
Yeah,
which they've got like 5 on their roster. The Raptors took the Brazilian Kevin Durant.
Yeah, right.
The 20th pick overall.
Yeah, that was great. Good job.
Huge shot there. Apparently he's 2 years away from being 2 years.
And they had such an opportunity. They finished so well last year. They had such an opportunity to make a big splash in this draft, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't pull it off.
Yeah. They could have probably taken him late second round.
Probably could have, yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how all of these players factor into this upcoming season. As far as fantasy purposes, we'll get into that later on down the line once the season starts. We'll see what happens here. Coming up after the break, we are going to start talking. I don't know. We got to name this mailbag here. Is it Teddy Mailbag? I don't know. We'll figure out a name for the mailbag. We got a bunch of good questions coming up. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
The Star Fantasy League show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Donald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy League's team by tweeting at SFL Show.
We're back on the Star Fantasy League show, and it is time for the mailbag. I'm not really sure what we need to call this. Do we need to call this Teddy Bear Time or Bear Time with Jason and Nick?
Sounds like a little kids TV show.
A little kids TV show?
We're
not.
I think there is one. There is one called Timmy Time.
Timmy Time? Is that with Tim Lincecum?
No.
And his creepy mustache? Because I think he would be scaring some people off with that.
Probably.
Particularly little kids. And he might be driving around in a van. Tim, if you're doing that, stop. That's not acceptable. We're in the teddy bear mailbag, if you will, with Jason and Nick. We got a couple of really good things to talk about. We're going to kick it right off. Clint D writes us, the U.S. men's soccer team punched their ticket into the knockout stage of the World Cup. Oh, yeah. And now have a date set with a young Belgium squad this Tuesday at 4 p.m. I know where I'll be. What does the team need to do to advance, and how do you like their chances? I mean, we're coming off of a really, really tough game here.
Yep.
This was a really big one. They did end up losing to Germany 1-0 in a swamp, nonetheless. So let's factor that in. They did play this game after traveling a lot. We knew all about that. Still got to give your hats off to these guys, right?
Yeah, they got out of the group of death, I think, pretty much nobody had them getting out of this group,
Nope.
which is amazing.
They had like a 30% chance going in.
Even though they lost, they still backed in, I guess you could say. Can't really say backed in. They played so good against Portugal. Ghana wasn't a great game. The early stages of the Germany game did not look good.
No, they didn't. I think they were outpossessed ridiculously.
Yeah, it was like 85% for Germany in like the first 15 or 20 minutes. Maybe that was from the travel, and
Could have been.
They had 1 day less off, I guess.
You never like to make excuses, obviously, when you're at this level. You always want to be at your top. But the fact is, they did travel the most out of any team. They were playing in a swamp. They were playing one of the best teams in the world in Germany. And Germany just played control the entire game. I mean, 85% possession, if you don't follow soccer, that's absurd.
Yeah, there was a stat at the bottom of the screen I pointed out. They were ahead by like 100 passes, like almost all the way through like the first half. Didn't they break a record? Weren't they close to breaking a record? Yeah, it was like the 5th most passes completed in World Cup history.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, they definitely weathered the storm, so to speak.
No pun.
Yeah. They put up a decent fight. They're going to need to play much better against Belgium, that's for sure. All-time against Belgium, they're 4-1.
Okay.
Last time they met, it was 4-2 win for Belgium, which was last year. It was a friendly in Cleveland. U.S. was missing a few key players, Michael Bradley, Fabian Johnson, Kyle Beckerman. Game in the first half was tied 1-1. 3 second-half goals for Belgium. Clint Dempsey scored a penalty kick late in the game. But I think Belgium will come into this game pretty highly favored.
I have to agree there, although I don't know if it's very warranted. And I'll tell you why. If the United States played in the group of death, then Belgium had to have played in the group of little kids and children and happy ponies and rainbows and all sorts of stuff, because that group was nothing compared to what we had to go through, okay? We're talking about Germany, the number 2 team in the world coming into this tournament. We're talking about Portugal, who has the best player in the world, or second best player in the world, however you want to look at it. And we have a team that knocked us out 2 times in the World Cup in the past 8 years or 12 years in Ghana, okay? They had a cakewalk compared to us. Now, I'm not going to write off Belgium by any means, because they are a young team. They're second youngest team in the World Cup coming in. They have a lot of talent, a lot of real scorers up front. They have a very good chance of advancing, just like we do. But I really got to say, I like the chances that they have. I really do. I like the way that they played the game. I like the way that they persevered through all of the troubles. I think they're going to have a couple of days to recover. They need to make sure Jermaine Jones is ready to go. They need to make sure Clint Dempsey and his nose aren't going to be an issue. They got to make sure they're healthy, but I really like their chances going into this.
Yeah, I think Michael Bradley really needs to pick up his game as well.
No kidding.
This round. Belgium has 10 Premier League players on their roster, so they've got a ton of talent
enormous
compared to us. I think this should be one of the best games of the group of 16. Looking at all the games, it's very weird that Spain, Italy, England, they're all out.
I know.
So there's a lot of clubs we don't normally see. You look at the CONCACAF, is well represented. U.S., Costa Rica, and Mexico. So 3 out of the 16 teams are from our region of the world, which is very surprising. And I don't know, what other games you're looking at for the next round?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about a squad full of players from the MLS. The MLS is a joke to the rest of the world. Let's be honest. It's a joke. Yeah. Everybody thinks it's a joke. And yet, here they are. They made it through the best group in the entire tournament. They're in. We're talking, this is a real deal here, okay? The United States soccer team is becoming a real deal. So, regardless of what else is going on, if they make it through this, obviously we have to play the winner of the Argentina match, which we think is probably going to be Argentina, okay? But we're not going to look ahead. Yeah. This is a good chance. It's a big opportunity. Yeah. Huge opportunity.
Klinsmann definitely deserves some credit there.
Absolutely. Hats off, Jurgen.
They finally broke the streak of every other World Cup making it into the next round.
Yep.
I think 2 straight years they've been to the knockout stage. So that's big for U.S. soccer. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to take a very big effort from, I think, Tim Howard, number 1. He's going to need to come up with some saves. He played fantastic against Germany, no doubt about that. He's going to need to come up with some saves. They got to find a goal. They got to find some scoring. Like you said, Michael Bradley, I think, is one of the big names because he's been off just slightly, okay? There was a couple of plays yesterday, particularly one where he got the ball right at the top of the box, and he just let it slip.
Yeah.
And, I mean, maybe weather played a factor. Maybe, there were some other things going on. Maybe it was, fatigue. But come on, man. Come on. You got to stop that ball and rip it. They almost scored at the end, but, they need to find some scoring. They need to get a couple of goals in this one. I don't think they win unless they score 2 at least.
And I wonder if Josie will be back for this game.
Fingers
Nobody
crossed.
said yet, I guess. So there's still, 5 or 6 days until the game?
Yep. Fingers
it'd
crossed.
It'd be huge if he comes back and if he's at 100%.
Yep.
So that'd be great.
Even if he's not, I think he could come off the bench and be a sub.
Yep.
He could come in towards the end of the game if they need to get a goal, maybe after the 75th minute. We'll see what happens, but fingers crossed. We're with the USA. We'll talk about this a little bit more as the days wear on here. We'll get to talk about it on Monday and Tuesday particularly. So stick with us on that and stick with the USA. Let's move on to the next question. Ian S. writes, yesterday we found out that Uruguayan star Luis Suarez received a hefty ban from FIFA for his biting incident against Italy. Today, Giorgio Chiellini called the ban excessive. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think if anything, the ban was a little light. But here's the details on the ban. He got fined 100,000 Swiss franc, which equals about 112,000 US dollars.
Oh, okay.
Suspended 9 official World Cup matches, starting with the upcoming game against Colombia. And if Uruguay makes it and he's on the roster in subsequent World Cups, he can't do any soccer-related activity for 4 months. That means his first 9 games for Liverpool, he's out. Also 3 Champions League matches.
That's enormous. If you don't follow soccer, that is enormous.
And he's banned from any stadium for 4 months. So
Can't even walk in the building.
No.
Can't even walk in the building.
He's going to wear a little mask for a disguise, maybe. I don't know.
Now, you said that you think this is a little bit light. I think, we all know at this point that Luis Suarez is a repeat offender, particularly with his teeth, apparently, because that's how he likes to attack people. But he's a repeat offender. So the first thing that I thought about this, I'm thinking, is this really warranted? Is this really enough? What is it? Well, then I think we needed to take a look at some other sports, particularly sports that we follow here in America a little bit more closely than we do soccer. And I found, there's a couple of incidents out there, a couple of big bans out there. I kind of wanted to go through a few of these. If you look at hockey, you have Marty McSorley. He was suspended 105 games. It ultimately ended his career for assaulting Donald Brashear. You have Todd Bertuzzi on Steve Moore, suspended for 17 months. And then, of course, the most famous of all of these, and probably the one that's most comparable to this incident, is Mike Tyson biting off Evander Holyfield's ear. He ended up getting $3 million in fines, and he lost his fighting license for a few months. We could talk about Albert Hainsworth and Ndamukong Suh from football. Hainsworth got a 5-game suspension for stomping Andre Gerrard, and Ndamukong Suh has been fined over $200,000 in his career, and he's only been suspended for 2 games for multiple on-field incidents. So there's a lot going on there, a lot of different sports to talk about. In comparison here, let's start with the Tyson Holyfield, if you will. He was suspended for a couple of months, and he paid $3 million in fines. We're talking about $100,000 for Luis Suarez.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
Is really?
Well, apparently he's not learning from these suspensions.
No,
that's for sure.
I think that's apparent.
Maybe he's just been watching too much Walking Dead. He's taking bites out of people, I guess, like zombies.
So he's contracted a disease
and so I don't know. The Tyson thing was just Tyson's just crazy.
Yeah.
Which I guess you could now say the same thing for Suarez.
Yeah.
He have a little screw loose in his brain. Got the wires crossed.
What makes you think that biting a player on the shoulder is A, going to do anything really, unless you're planning on giving him rabies, or B, is it really going to hurt him that badly that he can't continue to play? What are you trying to solve here?
Yeah. It's just I can't understand it. You look at these other offenders. In hockey, obviously, you pretty much have a weapon with your stick.
Exactly. That's an ongoing legal battle, too, between Todd Bertuzzi and Steve Moore. That's still going.
It is.
So, we're talking – now, obviously, they inflicted some serious damage on these players. Brashear and Moore have both had problems since then. But, I have to feel that FIFA missed an opportunity here. They really missed a chance to bring the hammer down, to really show something – to the rest of the world, that this is just not acceptable. You're a repeat offender. This is your 3rd time. We've seen in other sports here in America where repeat offenders they're coming down hard on them.
Yeah, they came down pretty hard on him, I guess. But that's another thing in the U.S. or other sports that we follow is normally you don't see a lot of repeat offenders. Like we were struggling to find a lot of repeat offenses. So usually these guys learn their lesson. If they do get a second offense, it's usually pretty large. Suspension or fine, and I don't know. The third time's a charm. I don't know. Maybe he should have been gone for longer.
So the last thing I think you could throw into this is some of the repeat offenders, particularly in football, when it comes to the drug testing that's going on.
Yes.
Let's take a look at our friend Josh Gordon. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about yet another time he tested positive for a banned substance, and I'm not sure if we've confirmed whether or not it's marijuana, but now we're talking about him being suspended for an entire season.
Yeah.
Versus this guy gets a couple of months and $100,000, and he'll be fine. He'll be playing later on this year. I don't know. I think that's a little bit excessive for Gordon and a little bit and not enough for Suarez.
Well, I think commissioners are also trying to make a name for themselves. Also,
Good point.
You look at baseball does a great job of repeat offenders. They really hit you hard.
Oh, they crush
with second or third offenses. You look at like Manny Ramirez.
Yep.
Or other guys that have second offenses are like 50 games.
Yep.
So that's pretty much a half a season. And third
50
like,
and then 100 and then a full season.
Right. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, and now in baseball, obviously the comparison there, you're missing 2 months and then 4 months. So, 2 and 3. But, yeah, I mean, still, in baseball, it's very clear. Like you said, they're coming down hard and they're trying to make a name for themselves. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we just don't understand. Maybe we're just American and we're just not caught up. We just don't understand these things. We'll see what happens with Luis Suarez and Uruguay in the next round. Coming up after the break now, we get to talk an American sport, baseball. We need to talk about baseball on Saturday. And you are listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The T.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Nick, only on the team.
Welcome back to the show. John and Zach are both off. You are here with Nick Steblenko and Jason Gringer. I think we're doing okay so far, don't you?
Yeah, except for the cage guy. He's really off today.
Yeah, he's way off. I don't know. I mean,
somebody must have fed him last night.
They give him a Cliff Bar.
Oh,
one of those old
Cliff
bars
from the vault.
The vault Cliff bars. Horrible. Stop feeding him. Stop feeding him. Whoever is doing that, he needs to get on his game. We need to get on our game too, because tomorrow we're talking today about tomorrow, Saturday, Major League Baseball. We got a full slate. There's 13 games. There's a couple of really nice matchups. As a baseball fan, tomorrow is going to be a fun time. Particularly for me as a Sox fan, we get to see Lester going up against Tanaka, but we'll get into that. There's a number of good pitching matchups. Let's get into some of those because those head-to-head matchups can be a little bit tough to pick, especially when you like a top pitcher. So where are you looking tomorrow is in terms of some of the ace matchups, if you will?
Well, obviously you mentioned Tanaka versus Lester. That game's going to be huge. Tanaka, his salary is still pretty high, but I like him. I think I like him in that matchup against Boston. Boston hasn't been hitting great.
Unfortunately for me.
They haven't seen Tanaka that much. He's done pretty well against them in the I think he faced him once.
Well, yeah, he ended up getting just close to 10 fantasy points in that game. Yep. Tanaka's on fire. I mean, you can't deny it. The guy, he's taken the league by storm.
Yeah.
And on paper, this really looks like he should be able to have another dominant performance.
Yeah, it's really going to be a pretty big battle for the Rookie of the Year between Tanaka and Abreu.
Oh, definitely.
So that should be interesting.
Absolutely.
Two international guys.
Well, if you had to pick right now, who would you say?
I think I'm leaning Abreu.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
I have to lean towards hitters for these type of awards, just because they're out there pretty much every day.
That's true.
Pitchers pitch every 5 days.
6 days, yeah.
That's another thing, like MVP. I hate when a pitcher wins MVP.
Yeah.
Because they have their own award. They've got the Cy Young.
Yeah,
right?
and they really, all they do is they win a game every 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying on that. I got to say, I think both of these guys are in play because Tanaka's price tag obviously is the highest on StarFantasyLeagues.com, $21,600. But Lester is at $15,600. He's been hanging around there, and he's been solid. And the Yankees, they're really not that special. What I will say about this, as a Sox fan, I've come to expect the unexpected from these types of matchups. These two teams don't like each other. There are some intangibles that come into play. I might just sit back and say, you know what, let's just let it be. Let's watch it and not really don't put a lot of stock into either of these guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch either of these guys. Another thing, Yankees versus Red Sox matchups, they usually go like 5 hours long.
Yeah.
So you'll be watching for quite a while into the night.
Well, I like that.
All right.
I'm okay with that. You did not?
No,
not so much? Okay.
But
all right.
Another ace I'm looking at tomorrow is Yu Darvish going up against the Twins.
The Dervish.
Twins are hitting 196 against him with only 2 extra base hits in their career. He's been knocked around his past 2 starts, Both of them have been on the road. He's given up 4 runs in both.
But one of them was against your A's, right?
Yeah, so we knew that was coming.
We knew that was happening.
But he does pitch much better at home. Tomorrow he's at home against Minnesota. He still has 47 strikeouts in his last 35 innings pitched, which is about 10 strikeouts per game. So he's still putting up great fantasy numbers. I think he's definitely a guy you could look at tomorrow.
I think he could go to the distance. I know we have Phil Hughes on the other side, but Texas they're still a solid team at the plate. It's in Texas, so I think you got to stay away from Phil Hughes. But Darvish could easily just rock this team tomorrow, and I think he's an easy candidate for the play of the day. Yeah, I mean, like you said, he did get knocked around the past couple of times, but we knew the Oakland A's were going to have a shot at that. They always have. So I think Darvish is definitely a good play. Another place I want to look, though, Detroit at Houston. We got Max Scherzer going up against Dallas Keuchel. That's his name.
Oh, you
John.
said it right.
It's his name, okay? We looked it up. We proved it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's his name, okay? That is what it is.
It's not Kuchel, John.
Not Kuchel, okay? Not Kukin. No. Not happening. Okay, sorry, I brought up food. It's okay. But Scherzer going up against Houston. This has got to be an option. He's at 16,500. He's had a couple of iffy starts this season, but he's still solid. He's still good to go.
Yeah, I think he's actually going to be my play of the day tomorrow.
Oh, all right.
Astros are only hitting 159 against him in his career with 4 extra base hits, 24 strikeouts. He faced Houston on May 5th and got the win, going 8 innings, only allowed 3 hits, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts.
Wow.
Houston has the second highest strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching in the majors at 24% almost. And Scherzer has over 7 strikeouts in 4 out of 5 games he started in June. So he's still putting up quite a few strikeouts. He hasn't been his Cy Young self. He still has a 3.71 ERA. He's got 9 wins, 119 strikeouts, 104 innings pitched, so he's been decent.
When he starts getting in the zone in a game, he could put up 10, 12 strikeouts easily. And, I mean, if he really got in the zone, we're talking about 15 strikeouts. That's what you want, and especially at the price. I mean, we're talking Keuchel is right around that same price. So is Lester. So is Zach Greinke. Tons of guys that are right at that same price. I like his matchup a heck of a lot more than any of them tomorrow. Yeah,
and I'm actually looking to stack the Tigers tomorrow against Keuchel.
Really?
I'm going for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a little out of the box? Be honest.
It's slightly, but Detroit's just been on fire lately.
Yeah, they have.
Let's face it.
I mean, J.D. Martinez, Victor Martinez, Miguel. I mean, the list goes on. And a lot of these guys are right-handed batters. They're going up against a lefty.
Yeah, in Minute Maid Park, one of the best hitters' parks, especially with the short porch in left field for right-handed batters. Tigers have actually moved up to second in the majors in weighted on-base average against left-handed pitching. They're up to 341 now.
Wow.
Keuchel, he's been very good this year. Pretty surprising. He's been knocked around pretty hard, though, his last 2 starts. 15 hits, 8 walks, 9 runs. And, I don't know, both of those were on the road, I think. So, should be a different beast.
I think I got to get with you on this one because you have to favor a team that's really hot at the plate.
Yep.
And Detroit is one of the hottest. I would say they're top 3 in terms of the last month over the course of the season here. They've been on fire. So where else are we looking to stack, though? Because I see a lot of great pitching matchups. I can't really jump on board with too many stacks, but I see 1 or 2. So where are you starting?
Surprise, surprise. I'm looking at the Brewers again.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Brewers, how can you not?
Yeah, against Chacin.
Yep.
They're in Milwaukee, which obviously great hitters park.
Yep.
They're 7th in the majors in weighted on base versus right-handed pitching. Chacin's given up 8 runs and 3 homers his last 2 starts. So I think you got to look for a couple bombs tomorrow for the Brewers.
Aside from the obvious, because now we're talking about a team that they're getting really high in price on StarFantasyLeagues.com. You have Braun, you have Gomez, but we got to get a little outside of the box. In terms of value, who can you pick on this team?
Well, against a right-handed pitcher, you got to look at Scooter.
Definitely.
He's moving up the charts a little bit.
Yep.
He's been on fire lately.
He's around 6,300, which isn't too bad.
Hit a grand slam off, I think, Strasburg the other day.
That's huge.
So, I don't know. They don't really have too many value guys, as you said.
Yeah,
so
really.
It's tough to find that.
I think Scooter and Ricky Weeks, we talked about them a lot. Ricky Weeks is really the guy that you want to put in against left-handed pitchers, and then Scooter against right-handed.
Yep.
They lead off, and then they get on base. They can run the base as well. They can score runs. They can score runs in a number of different ways. I definitely think that's somebody that you have to put in if you're going to stack the Brewers.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean these guys are on fire. It's a great way to go. Another game I'm looking at: Eric Bedard versus Wei-Yin Chen, Tampa Bay versus Baltimore. Here, I think there's some plays on both sides of the plate, but bear with me on this one for a second. Tampa Bay hasn't been a great team so far this year, but Wei-Yin Chen hasn't been anything really special either.
Yep.
And there's some really low price tags on some very enticing players tomorrow. Evan Longoria is 6,700. No, he hasn't been great this year, but the potential is always there. He's always batting fourth. And if you put a couple of these other guys in, Ben Zobrist is batting second. Yunel Escobar is batting sixth. I'm not 100% sold on him, but you could find a couple of value plays, and with Wei-Yin Chen on the hill, you never know. You could get some runs.
Yeah, definitely in Camden Yards.
Yep.
Great hitters park. Yeah, they have a lot of right-handed bats on Tampa Bay.
Yep.
So it's definitely something you could look at to stack. Also, Desmond Jennings comes to mind.
Definitely.
Longoria, of course.
Yep.
I think he was my play of the day for tonight.
Yeah?
But, yeah, definitely a nice place to look.
Then on the other side of the plate, obviously we have Eric Bedard.
Yeah.
Baltimore hasn't been fantastic against Eric Bedard, let's be honest. However, I think that you can put in Nelson Cruz and Steve Pearce. I think both of those guys come into play. Maybe Adam Jones. Not so sure about all of them. Maybe you might want to fit one or two of those guys in because I don't think you can go full-on stack against them. Bedard, I just don't know what to expect. Sometimes he'll come out great. Sometimes he'll be weak. I just don't know. So maybe one or two guys.
Yeah, and that's also a bit of a little revenge game for Bedard. He was on Baltimore for quite a bit.
True.
So coming back in there, he's been up and down this year, but he's been pretty good. I've stacked against him many a times, and it's kind of let me down.
Yeah.
So
you mean like me with Noesi and Nolasco and pretty much anybody really bad that I want to stack against that just decides to show up for a day? It is what it is. Last place I want to look, Eric Stoltz is on the mound for San Diego. I love stacking against him, but I'm going to say it again. I think the D-backs are coming down back to earth. I don't know. I mean, I obviously Paul Goldschmidt, the Golden Boy, is always in play. I don't know, though. I can't really go with much else, though. Martin Prado, I think you can throw in there for value, but, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be picking on Eric Stoltz tomorrow.
Yeah, I actually have the Diamondbacks listed on mine as well. Stoltz has given up 5 homers, 20 runs, 33 hits, and 25 innings pitched in June. Diamondbacks are 11th in the majors in weighted on base average in June, so they have come up quite a bit. They have kind of a little come back down to earth for, I don't know, lately.
Yep.
But I do like the matchup. They've got a lot of right-handed bats. It's in San Diego, which isn't a great hitter's park, we know.
Nope.
But Stoltz hasn't been great. So,
nope. Anywhere else that you're looking for tomorrow?
I do like the Pirates against the Mets.
Gotta love the Pirates. They're on fire.
Pirates on fire, going up against Jonathan Neese. I'm also looking at the A's in Miami against Nathan Eovaldi.
Yeah, he's one of those guys I can't get a great read on him. Honestly, I want to say he shows up when he feels like it. He really does.
Yeah, he had a great start last time, but it was against Philly. So I don't know if you can really say much about that. But prior to that start, he had given up 11 runs in his last 10 innings pitched.
On the other side of that, you got to look at Sonny Gray.
Definitely.
Sonny Gray against Miami, that's a great matchup.
Yeah, I have him listed here. He's been very consistent. He's only given up over 3 earned runs in 2 starts this year. He's got 3 straight games of 7 strikeouts. He's never faced any Marlins batters before, so it's definitely something I think to his advantage. I like taking pitchers who haven't faced batters.
Particularly him, because he's actually been very solid this year.
Yep.
So, yeah, I like that too. They're not going to be able to get a read on him until probably about the 6th or 7th inning. By that time, he'll have done all his damage, and you will have a number of fantasy points under your belt.
Yeah, great pitcher's park there in Miami as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's one other matchup I'm a little interested in is just Atlanta at Philadelphia. Real quick, David Hale and Sean O'Sullivan, both guys haven't been starting pitchers all year long. What do you do in this situation?
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you stay clear?
Just stay away.
Stay away.
But, I mean, both teams have been bad, I guess. You can look at the Braves. Hale, he might be worth a flyer.
I think a flyer is a good way to put it. I think that, both of these guys, without a lot of experience on the hill at the major league level, you can't really put all of your eggs in their basket. So, well, that's our MLB Saturday, and I think we did okay.
Did we knock it out of the park?
We may have knocked it out of the park. I guess we'll have to wait till tomorrow to see. Coming up after the break, we're going to wrap this thing up. We're going to give you all of our value plays for Saturday, and you are listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
We are back, and We're wrapping up our first show, just the two of us. How did we do?
It's the first ever time there's only been 2 people on this show.
Yeah.
I think we did pretty well.
I think we did all right.
I don't know if Zach and John had that much confidence in us.
Well, we'll see.
To do that.
We'll see. Maybe we proved a little something. Maybe we hit it out of the park. Maybe not.
Maybe
we'll have to see.
Ground rule double at least.
Ground rule double, so we got lucky. We got a lucky bounce. Is that what happened? All right. Well, before we go, we are going to give you all of our value plays for Saturday, MLB. Jason, start us off. Who do you got for tomorrow?
For batter for Saturday on StarFantasyLeagues.com, I'm looking at a couple guys. I really love Ian Kinsler, but my play of the day is going to be Robinson Cano in Seattle against Cleveland, going up against Josh Tomlin. He's got the 6th highest batting average in the AL this year, which is kind of surprising.
Solid.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's solid.
Definitely surprising, but very solid.
In his career against Tomlin, he's 5 for 11. He's got 2 doubles, a home run, 4 RBI. He's got a 6-game hitting streak, and Tomlin's given up 10 earned runs, 19 hits, 3 homers in his last 2 starts. So you could look at a few guys from Seattle in this matchup.
We can definitely see Tomlin's definitely a long ball thrower. So
yeah. Pitcher of the day, as I said, was Max Scherzer. I love his matchup against Houston. He's only 16,500.
Yep.
So he's not going to be the top tier guy, and salary's definitely worth a look.
I think we agree on that one.
And value play of the day is Carlos Pena, first base for Texas. Recently called up. He's minimum salary. He's had 3 games. He's already had 1 home run, but he's going up against Phil Hughes. He's got 3 homers in his career against Phil Hughes, 3 walks and a double. He did hit a home run. I don't know if you saw this. He hit a home run into a tray of pulled pork the other day.
Ruined somebody's meal. Yeah, you know how I feel about that.
In the outfield terrace.
I think he should have bought that man a pig, at least.
My stack of the day, Tigers. I love this 2 through 5 stack, all right-handed bats and a switch hitter. Kinsler, Cabrera, Martinez combined their last 5 games. They're 34 for 86. That's almost 400 average. 11 doubles, 8 home runs, 28 RBI. Absolutely killing it.
You're just dropping some knowledge right now. You understand that?
That's what I like to do.
You are dropping knowledge. Carlos Pena, you pulled that one out of thin air.
Yes. I didn't even see that coming.
Did he say anything to the man that after he knocked the pulled pork?
No, but the guy that was serving it, he actually gave the fan the ball. With the sandwich.
With the sandwich?
It was a sandwich with a side of ball. And they actually interviewed the person. The ball still had pulled pork on it.
That's one of those things that you just put in a case and put it off to the side. Yeah. All right, I am going to start off my play of the day. Batter of the day is going to be the golden boy, Paul Goldschmidt. Like I said, I don't love everybody from the Diamondbacks, but Goldschmidt, he is an obvious choice. He is just on fire. Great right-handed bat. Value play of the day is going to be Brandon Guyer for Tampa Bay. He's been batting 3rd, and I think him against Wei-Yin Chen, like I said, I think you have a lot of value there. He's 3,800, so even if he gets you a couple of points, I think you're good to go. You took my Max Scherzer pick, and I love him tomorrow, so make sure you get him in. But I'm going to go with Sonny Gray, your boy from Oakland.
Love it.
He's got Miami, and Miami loves to strike out against right-handed batters. I mean, I don't know what it is, but they just love it.
It's always sunny in Miami.
It's always
right,
except for when it's hurricane season, apparently.
I guess.
Yeah.
And they close that dome. I don't know why they have that roof closed quite a bit. I guess the heat.
The heat that blocks out the heat.
Yeah.
The sun. Does it keep LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul? It keeps them out of the building. Good, because I don't want to see them. Yeah. I want nothing to do with it. Okay. My stack's going to be the obvious one, the Milwaukee Brewers. They're just on fire. If you don't get them in your lineup almost every night, these guys have just been killing it. Don't be surprised when they start making a run late in the year for that top spot in the league.
Yeah, Billy Brewer coming down that slide in the outfield. It's going to happen a few times.
Absolutely. So that is it for our first show here on Star Fantasy League Show, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you join us again on Monday. We're on 5 days a week at 5 p.m. here in Rochester on 105.5 The Team. If you're not playing yet, get in the game. Get on StarFantasyLeagues.com. There's thousands of dollars in guaranteed prize pools every week. Tweet us at SFL Show with your username, and we'll give you $5 free in your account if you're a new user. I tried doing it. They just don't let me do it.
Get out of here.
Tweet at SFL Nick and SFL Guru for Jason if you want to talk to us about sports. And I don't have a sign-off, but come on back. We love you. Take it easy, guys.